Welcome to another Sunday Sessions video. My name is Pip. I'm one of the physios at Sydney Advanced Physio in Lynfield. One of the errors that we see really commonly, whether people are exercising in the gym, in the park, in Pilates, wherever, is that their neutral setup is not great. If your base setup isn't good, then you usually don't feel the exercise in the right places, so you feel the wrong muscles turning on, and there's also a risk that you'll injure yourself while you're exercising. So I'm going to take you through a few setup positions and help you learn how to find neutral in those positions. And I'm also going to show you a few areas that we commonly see technique errors that can lead to issues when you're exercising, and hopefully then you'll be able to apply these to the next time you exercise. A really important part of floor work, such as in Pilates, or if you were to go to the gym and try and do some sit-ups, is to set yourself up correctly with a neutral alignment. So what that means is that your ribs aren't flared up, which would arch your lower back, and that your pelvis is in the right position. So what we really commonly see is that people think that they're in a nice neutral alignment for their spine, but they're actually a little bit tucked back like this. So they've flattened their back slightly, and they're often gripping in through their lower glutes. So to get the right position, rather than just arching your back and thinking about pinning your tailbone down, what you want to do is think about the bones that you sit on down in your bottom and imagine them going wider. Then once you've done that, you want to let your tailbone drop to the floor. So you're letting it drop, you're not pushing it down to the floor. And if you can do that, you'll relax in the bottom, and then that will allow you to tilt your pelvis and to come into a natural neutral position. You also want to relax your legs a little bit. If you're clenching your legs the entire time, it is difficult for your pelvis to then drop and find the right neutral position. From there, once you start doing your exercise, you want to make sure you don't immediately then clench back in the bottom and tip back and flatten your back. So that's the other really common error we see, is people set themselves up well, and then as soon as they go to move, so if I was to say do a sit-up, they tuck backwards and then they lift from there. You need to still keep your pelvis in that nice relaxed position. Think about your tailbone dropping to the floor, and then try and pull your ribs down towards your pelvis to do the sit-up, not pulling your pelvis up towards your chest. Squats are a really common exercise that we see people do in the gym and as part of Pilates and rehab. The most important thing is actually the setup. So you want to have your feet at least hip distance or a tiny bit wider in the setup. But what you want to watch is that your squat doesn't look like this. So it's not all knee bend. You actually need to take some of the weight onto your heels and sit your bottom back so that it's equal parts hip and knee bend. The next part of setting up a squat to make sure you're doing it right is to make sure you're not moving incorrectly through the spine. So for beginners, I get them to put one hand on their lower rib cage, one hand in their lower back, so that they can feel if they're doing any of this as they squat. And what you're aiming to do is open up at the back, so think about those butt bones again and let them open, let the tailbone go, turn your core on, sit back on the heels, and keep your spine still as you sit back. You don't want to tuck your bottom under as you squat. Setting up the feet for a squat is really important. Your feet should grow wider and longer as you squat, and you shouldn't see any tendons popping up through the foot or through the ankle. It will tend to happen more if you have more of your weight on the front part of your foot, and you'll also then tend to load up your knees too much. So you want to have roughly 2/3 of your weight on your heels, not so much that your toes lift up. And then you're going to try and keep your weight a little bit more on the heels as you stick your bottom back and drop into the squat. You shouldn't see your toes scrunch. You shouldn't see them press hard into the floor. They shouldn't lift off the floor. They should be nice and relaxed. And as I said, you shouldn't see any tendons popping up through the foot. Lunges are also a common exercise where we see setup errors. So I'm going to take you through basically the leg setup. So you want to make sure that when you step one leg back, that you're not standing on a tightrope. That will make balancing harder. You still need to have your feet hip distance apart, so I'm wiggling my foot back. You come up on the back foot like you're wearing a high heel, and the front leg, you've got to think of it as kind of doing a squat. So you need to make sure that you're not collapsing through the arch, and that you're only dropping down into the lunge as far as you can go without seeing any wobbling through the knees, without seeing that back foot pivot, and without seeing your front foot clench or lifting up the toes. And ideally you want to minimize how much tendon popping you see through here. Now from side on, this is what your lunge setup should look like, so that when I try and drop into the lunge, I'm trying to bend both knees at the same time. I'm not coming forward like this. The more you come forward, the more you'll feel it in the knee and less in the legs and the bum. You should be dropping straight down. The final part of setting up a lunge is to make sure that your pelvis and your chest are pointing straight ahead. You don't want to see any rotations at any point during the movement. As you drop into the lunge, how deep you go depends on whether you lose the pelvis, so you shouldn't see any dip, nor should you see the knee wobble in, or the foot collapse, or the foot at the back wobble. So those are the ways you can control your setup for your lunge. Make sure you've got enough of a stride distance, that your legs are still hip distance apart, and that you aim to drop straight down and you only go as far as you can control without losing any part of your body. Hopefully you found this video of exercise setup tips helpful. If you're experiencing any pain when you're exercising or after exercising, or any leakage of urine while you're exercising, or if your body just doesn't feel like it's doing what it should do and it's not as easy as you'd like it to be, then I would strongly suggest that you come in and see one of our amazing physios. You can check out our website and book online anytime via sydneyadvancedphysio.com.au, or you can call us on 9416 4410.